Welcome back to Tracer Customs. Luke's already looking for torque specs in the directions. I told him to burn the directions, and Tim says he can't hear us and he doesn't want to hear anything we say. We're making this up as we go. We're putting a tow package on the truck because this isn't strong enough. So, you're interrupting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead. We're putting a tow package on, but we're gonna have to get creative. We're gonna have to cut part of one of the spring mounting brackets off and then fabricable this into it to tie the springs back in. It's gonna get interesting. But we're gonna try to get this tow package on today so this truck can actually tow what it's rated to tow. So, time to get to work. There's some brackets in the way. Otherwise, you know what would be easier than test fitting it like this?
Using a jack?
Measuring it.
Oh.
With like a measuring tape. I think it's gonna work out pretty good. If I don't die. You know when the guy drops the weight on him doing bench press? That's about what that feels like. Fortunately, I have a lot of experience with that. Alright, let's get a measuring tape. Do we have a measuring tape? Bolts might get in our way. Luke, the user of the measuring tape and the torque wrench. The bolts is 34 3/4 if you count the bolts. Alright, we got 33 3/4 between the top part of these. Which is what it is without the bolts. So, as long as the bolts don't get in our way, it will fit between the springs. Just along the bolt heads don't get in our way. It's gonna be close. Alright, let's chop these things off. Alright, let's do the fun part. I'm gonna say we need to probably jack that up and get the frame. It doesn't have to be all the way off, but at least take some of the weight off the springs since we're removing part of what holds the thing onto the frame. Probably a good idea. So Tim doesn't die today.
It's only slightly concerning. Glad y'all are getting into that and I'm not. Hercules! Hercules!
How much do we need?
No, you missed it. It was, what was that, Friday, Thursday?
I don't know.
We were working on the tow truck and all of a sudden I just hear and I was like, Hercules, Hercules, thinking he just picked something heavy up. He goes, I just stood up. I was like, oh, my bad, old man.
We'll try. So Luke's getting those brackets cut off that are in our way, and then we're gonna make the trailer hitch reconnect the leaf spring back into it so everything's tied together. Since we chopped part of the frame off and the frame's shorter now, the hitch doesn't just bolt on like it would if we had the whole frame there. So we're modifying some stuff to make it work. We're also working on this trailer today, doing lights and brakes on it. Not something we normally do, but it's for a friend, so we're helping them out and getting some stuff fixed up on this trailer. And then we got another vehicle coming later to do a remote start kit on, which we do. We do that frequently. So don't bring your trailers in, but if you want a remote start, we can do that. All right, so we got the brackets removed that were right here, but kind of a 90-degree bracket that goes from the frame to the spring mount. Our hitch is going to sit right here, and we'll fasten this back up to the hitch right here, so it'll still have support. The hitch is also going to come back here where the frame begins to turn and go up, so we're going to have to create some sort of spacer so this can all bolt up to the frame. And then we're also hoping, I don't know if we're going to have space, we're hoping to put a winch underneath the back end here somewhere as well, so we can have a ferry lead coming out right here and have a low winch in the back. And then this is probably going to get notched out around this one if everything goes as I want it to go. We'll see how everything lines up here pretty quick. So that is against the frame right there. So main thing I want to do with that is slide it back more so that it's basically, so we need to go out like 2 inches. So, okay, we're going to need to cut. It's going to be lower than I hoped. Unless I can come up with a way to avoid that. Ideally, I'd raise that like 3 inches from where it's at. But I don't know if that's going to be possible. Abs of steel. This incredibly straight sawzawing work I have to do here. Take that off. There. Yeah. I cut it off. Alrighty guys, so we've been working on fitting this in here. It's all fitting, except we got to figure out how to get these spring brackets fastened back into the side of this. So this was on the frame before like this, and the spring was bolted in through this hole right here. So we need to be able to fasten that into this, but where the bolt's coming through, it would interfere with this. We wouldn't be able to get a nut or get the bolt through. So we're going to try to use a portion of this and create basically a welded pocket on the side here that's going to stick out and allow that bolt to come through and bolt into it. We'll see if we can make this work. We're going to try to do some measuring and cutting and welding and make all this go back together as smooth as possible. And if we don't like it in the end, we'll chop it all up and we'll redo it a different way. Alright, if I look like I got in a fight with a tow truck and lost, it's because I did, but I didn't actually lose. The tow truck lost. We had some bolts in the holding the leaf springs on that would not come out, and my face might have smacked the back end of the truck, but it's okay. I got the bolts out. I gotta go get some new bolts. They were rusted and seized into the bushing sleeves, but I got them out, so I gotta go get some new ones. But this is roughly where, well, it's pretty much where it's gonna sit. We're getting things marked up. I was hoping to get it up higher, up where this other one's at, but it's just going to be a lot of fabrication to do that. So we're going to run it down here for now and see how it works. I'm going to trim off these. They don't need to be hanging down that far, so I'm going to trim those off. So we're going to get our holes marked in the frame where we need to drill our holes for the bolts, get those drilled, and then we got to weld on some pieces onto the side so that our spring can clamp back on, so our leaf spring brackets don't bend and fall off. All right, guys, everybody else has gone home. It's getting late, but I had to go get some parts and I came back to stick around and work on stuff a little bit longer. So Luke got one of these made earlier and I got the other one made now. We cut down part of the old bracket, and this is basically going to weld onto the side of the tow package so that we can get the bolt back into the spring. I was trying to find bolts earlier. I can't find any locally that are the right size and length, so I'm gonna have to use the ones we've got temporarily, but I need to get those bolts replaced. I'll probably have to order some the right size, but I'm gonna see if these fit and if the spacing's looking right, and then I need to get them tacked in place, and then we can get them welded up fully. And then I got to drill some holes in the frame so we can bolt this together. So I'm just gonna do what I can tonight. I don't have a lot of time. I'm not gonna stay too late, but try to get a few more things done. All right, I got those brackets down to about the right size. So now I got the tow package out, and I gotta take off a little of this powder coat right in here. That right there, a little circle, is where the center of my bolt's gonna be at. So that's where that bracket's gonna line up right there. So I need to get some of that powder coat off so I can get a weld on there. And this is gonna weld on there right about like that, roughly like that, and then that bolt will come through and we'll be able to put a nut on the back side. It's going to be tight, but I think it's going to work. We'll find out here pretty soon, probably. Alright, I got the brackets in here, so I'm going to see if I can tack them in place while I've got it in position here, and then I'll pull it out and then we'll weld them up permanent. Alright, I couldn't get tacking it to work under there, so I marked these earlier where the bolts need to go, so I'm just going to eyeball this and weld it in place here and work. I may tack it here. I can't get up, this is too tight between the springs, I can't get the stick in there at an angle to get a weld on this, so I'm just gonna do it this way. We'll double check it, make sure it's good, and then stick it back under there. My camera is about to die, so I'm gonna go put it on the charge, so you may miss a little bit. Don't worry, we'll be back. And it's raining outside, which is very nice because it's been dry. Well guys, it's another day at the shop. My nose is beginning to heal. It's been a couple days since I was working on the tow truck. Been busy with other things. I'm the only one here today. It's Saturday, so we're not actually open. Not supposed to be here, but I need to get this done because I'm wanting to work on my camper, but I need this out of the way because the rest of the shop's full. Tim's got a big build over here on a van. I think he's doing all the wiring on that van built out. Customers building all the interior and everything, but they wanted us to wire everything up, so I think Tim's doing wiring on that. But I'm gonna try to work on the tow truck a little bit. I need to finish getting this tow package on. That's my main goal, is to get that on so I can move this out of the way and bring my camper in and do some more work on my camper, because I need to get this ready for Rendezvous in the Ozarks, and I need to get a few things done on my camper before Rendezvous in the Ozarks. So time to get to work. Alright guys, tow package is bolted up currently. That's where it's gonna sit. It's hanging down further than I originally planned. We'll see if that's an issue. It's gonna be actually it's better for it to be lower for towing and for trailer heights and everything, but we'll see how big of an issue is with it dragging. So I've trimmed off the bottom portions of this. You saw me cut that, so that wasn't hanging down a bunch of extra distance for no good reason. And then I've still got to build right here. See that space between the tow package in the frame, we've got to build a spacer to go in there so we can get that last bolt in place. But I'm just going to wait till Luke's back and he can weld up a little spacer and put it in there next week. I'm going to go ahead and get the leaf springs bolted back up, because if you remember, we added that pocket right in here, and then that leaf spring bolt slides in there. So I'm going to get the leaf spring bolted back up. That way I can at least move the truck out of the shop and get on with some of the other things I want to do this weekend. But everything's coming together on it. It's looking pretty good. I just got to build some spacers, and I think that's it. But I'm going to get the axle bolted back in, and then probably call it a day on this project. All right, hitch is on. Springs are bolted back in, so I'm done working on this for today. We'll pick it back up next week. Luke gets back, we'll build those spacers, add those in, and then we're going to move over to the front end and work on getting this hitch fabricated to fit into the front end so that we can do a winch and move it back and forth. While we don't have money for all the winches we want, and we don't have money for a winch bumper on the front. Eventually we'll replace it with a full bumper and permanent winch on the front, but for now we're going to utilize what we have and do a cradle and run power, and then be able to just move a winch from the front to the back wherever we need it at any given time. So that's what we're going to do for now, but we'll pick that back up next week. Alrighty guys, another day at the shop. So we've been neglecting you. We've been working on stuff, but we haven't been filming because we've kind of been in a hurry getting ready for Rendezvous in the Ozarks. So I'm just going to show you what all we've done. You saw we got the receiver tow package on the truck, so we can now tow trailer safely. We got that done, and then we went over to the front of the truck and we rigged up a receiver that's bolted to the frame up here on the front. And you may say, why did you do that? Well, we want to put a front and rear winch on this eventually, but we don't have a winch bumper on the front, and we don't know when we're going to get one. And we only have so many winches. So we took the winch we had and we got a cradle for it. So now we can put that winch on the front or the back, and we just ran some power connectors. There's one right here, and then there's one up front right here. So now we can take that winch and put it in the front or back. It's not a long-term solution. It sticks out. It doesn't help with departure or angle or anything like that. It's kind of bad for all that. But we can get a winch on the front or the back in a pinch to do a recovery or help with a recovery. So we got that set up. Then yesterday we also got the second fuel tank in, temporary. We got to redo all the fuel neck stuff. We're going to bring it up somewhere in here really high later on, so we don't ever have to worry about water getting in through the fuel spout. So we now have both gas tanks in it, and we also have dual fuel pumps. So what we did, each gas tank has its own fuel pump, and then inside we have a switch down here on the dash, and we can turn on whichever fuel pump we want. So instead of the old, it's similar to the original style that would have been in it, but it's different. The old ones would have had one pump and they would have pulled from both tanks, and there's a bunch of hoses and valves and stuff. This is simple. We've got dual tanks, we've got dual fuel pumps. We just turn on whichever pump we want. So it also gives us redundancy. If we puncture a tank or if we have a fuel pump go out, we've got the second one ready to go. We just may have a tank of gas that we can't use. But that's ready. So now we've got 45 gallons of fuel on the truck, which is good because this 454 gets about 8 miles a gallon going downhill and neutral with the engine off. It's about as good as you ever get. So it's ready to go now with the fuel. And so we're packing up for Rendezvous today. So I've got some gas cans on here I gotta go fill up. We've got some spare oil and fluids in one of these. We've got recovery gear in here. We've got some ropes. These are from Sandy Cats, and some soft shackles. We got a couple ropes, several soft shackles, bow shackles, tree savers. We got a bunch of recovery gear, so we're equipped and ready to do basic recoveries. We can do some basic recoveries. Now, we're not licensed by the state to do towing yet. We don't have insurance for any of that, but if my vehicle breaks down, I can go get it. Tim's breaks down, we can go get it. We can do stuff on a volunteer basis for practice. So if you're in a bind in the Ozarks somewhere, like this weekend at Rendezvous or sometime in the near future, it won't hurt to reach out and see if we can help. We may be able to. If it's too crazy, we may not be ready yet. Obviously, the truck is not done. It's not where we want it, but it is currently running reliably. We have a lot of fuel. We've got basic recovery gear. So it's baseline operational. Not done, but baseline operational. So that's what we've been going for. So we got a lot of stuff done the last few days. It's been a lot of work, but it's coming along. Only other thing I'm going to try to do today is get the old kind of brush guard back on. We had to do some modifying and cutting and then patching because the bolts that held it on were all rusted up, so we had to just cut them out and kind of tore some stuff up doing that. So I'm going to try to get that fixed up today and get it back on because we don't have a drill in this. I want to protect the radiator, and that's got expanded metal in it, so it'll help protect the radiator as we're going down the road. So that's where we're at. And today we are loading up toolboxes and tools and welder and more toolboxes. We are packing up the shop. It's going in the trailer, and we're headed to Rendezvous in the Ozarks. We're setting up a booth there. We're going to be able to do at least basic installation. So if you're there and you want like some electronics installed, we're going to have the trailer out there and a bunch of our tools, so we can do that. And we'll have quite a few mechanicking tools if need be. We have limited manpower, limited time, but if someone's in a pinch, we'll be happy to try to help out with what we have. We'll have jacks and jack stands and a plethora of various tools. So we can get ourselves into a lot of trouble if we want. So feel free to swing by and see us out there. I'm going to try to get this video up before we leave. We're leaving out tomorrow morning early. We got to get everything packed up today. I've got to get all my personal stuff packed up and my family packed up. So we got a lot to do today, but things have been coming along. Real happy with it. So come see us out at Rendezvous. And if you're in trouble this fall, winter in the Ozarks, it won't hurt to reach out. And if we can, we'll come out and help on a volunteer basis until we get going a little bit more. And then that'll be a little different. But that's kind of where we're at. So thanks for watching. Come see us at Rendezvous, and we'll see you next time.